right, so hi, I'm Jacob Morris, and we're here with Ian Birdsall from Fantasy Flight Games. I run tournaments and events in Seattle, and so we're just here to talk about some organized play stuff.
Cool.
So first, tell us about yourself. Tell us what you do. What is Netrunner Organized Play?
Netrunner Organized Play. Well, obviously I'm an Organized Play Associate for Fantasy Flight Games, and Netrunner is one of our more popular and faster growing games, just in general, LCG specifically. Netrunner is a cyberpunk themed asymmetrical card game where you play as a runner, a cyber criminal versus a mega corporation. Morals are kind of loose. Who's the good guy, who's the bad guy, you don't really know. And it has an interesting game mechanic where you're not only keeping track of your resources, but you're keeping track of your time in the form of clicks. So that's why I personally like the game. It's a lot more to think about. You play against the player as much as you play the cards.
Right, which is very different from something like Magic, where you're pretty much playing against the cards.
I mean, there's different types of control decks in Magic the Gathering, any card game really. So, I mean, all card games have those similarities, that kind of Venn diagram that brings them all together and makes them interesting in their own special way. But Android Netrunners, and not just because it's our game, but it is actually probably my favorite card game. I have a blast with it. I have a lot of fun with it. If only I could play a runner other than noise.
Yes.
I tried really hard. I made an Ian Sterling deck, but I made it a Daddling Reversal deck, so it was basically just another mill deck.
Just another
mill deck.
Anarch in Ian.
Yeah. Did you have any specific questions about organized play, the direction we're going?
Yeah. So if you could just comment on how you feel the state of organized play is right now, and kind of where you want to see it go in the future.
Cool. Well, it's everything's looking up. The organized play program for Fantasy Flight has been around for a number of years, but there hasn't been a real concerted effort to kind of kickstart's the wrong word, because now kickstarted means something specific, but to get it really going and growing and out supporting the community as much as it has. And a couple of years ago, they hired Stuart Wilson and then myself, and we just added Brendan Weiscott into the team. And then we all kind of joined together with Jack Vertica into the organized play and events overall form. And so we're basically building this program from the ground up. And so we're learning a lot every year, every event that we do. We're really trying to interact with the community as often as we can to get that feedback, so we can determine that why didn't you let us run an event in the Northwest? And it's like, well, nobody asked.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
So there are certain things we can do with that, and we have we've just implemented kind of a tier of tournaments, starting with our seasonal tournament kits. A few times a year we come out with those with varying prize support, and then we have the store championships, which lead into the regional tournaments, which lead into the national level tournaments. We do our North American Championship at Gen Con, and that all culminates into our World Championships in Roseville, Minnesota at the Fantasy Flight Games. Which we host at the Fantasy Flight Games Center. We had last year for the grand opening of that center as well. And that's really exciting because it really is a world championship. We fly in national champion winners from other countries all around the world, and it's really an amazing sight to behold. It's not the largest convention because it's just the one company. But having all those different players from all those different backgrounds just come together just to play games and have a good time.
And it's a lot more concentrated, right? Because everyone's there for that thing. So.
Exactly, and it's really rewarding to see that really build up. And so that's the general kind of outlook. What we're kind of trying to build and build to and grow with. We're trying to make that easier for retailers to get engaged, because that's really the core. It's the foundation of organized play. I mean, you can buy games online as much as you want, but who are you going to play it with? So local game stores are the fulcrum for that. So people go there, they meet new players. Conventions like this, great place to come and meet new players, and hopefully we can help grow communities as much as just support the games from a marketing standpoint.
Cool. So then to kind of hit a few points of specifics on what that plan looks like, the first tier being, do you have any sort of plans for a judge program, kind of like Magic has, where you can get levels of judges to officiate events and so on? Yeah,
we're beginning kind of the initial discussion and planning stages of having a sort of judge/volunteer program. Maybe they'll be separate, maybe they'll be together in the same sort of idea, where we can support and reward kind of like ambassadors of the game,
Right.
almost into an official position of being a judge for Fantasy Flight games. And we're hoping to debut kind of a beta program of that, a pilot program, if you will, later this year.
Oh, awesome! So very soon.
So yeah, fingers crossed. It might push back into early next year, but we're hoping to at least get a few people started so that we can get feedback as to where to go with that program.
Awesome.
But we have heard that feedback from the community, and we really do want it. We feel that's important, and we want to get it up and running as soon as we can.
Definitely.
At least in a beginning stage, so that we can grow from there.
Especially because the thing that I've noticed as someone who runs events, that like players themselves are not super keen on asking for the judges to come answer questions or whatever, and so maybe having that more official sort of like, oh, they are a judge, so they are someone I could totally ask and approach if I have those questions.
And Netrunner's kind of an odd beast for a game. It's new, so it's not too terribly complicated yet. But also, I mean, a credit to Lucas and Damon, the core designers of the game. I mean, it's very streamlined. It's very clear where the steps are. So, and there's not a whole lot of kind of interrupting actions.
Exactly.
Things resolve, and so you don't have to go like, okay, well, I did this, and then he did this, and then I did that. Where does this resolve where? So, like I said, it's a testament to the game for how, for lack of a better word, simple it really is. I mean, there are many complexities within the game, but the actual how you play the game is fairly simple, and we don't get a lot of questions at events like these.
Yeah, I mean, so far we've answered 3, right? And we're already in round 2. So.
Yeah, and the ones that are fairly easy ones is just somebody misinterpreted how a card works or something like that.
Yeah, or often it's like one person knows the rule and the other person doesn't, so they're just questioning.
Yeah.
Cool. So then the other thing that I was going to ask you about regarding plans for future organized play is just one of the big. So when you're organizing an event, like there's 3 people you basically have to deal with. You have to get the players to come to the event in the first place, which is the easiest part because people want to play the game.
No.
So they come and they want to play because that's easy. Then we have to deal with Fantasy Flight, which is also super easy because you guys are putting in those programs into place. You've got the boxes, you send them out, and you have the tournament rules. So like everything's pretty well laid out. And the biggest part where I think it's falling apart, and I hate to say that like it's your responsibility because it's the game store owners. Is getting owners of people who own stores or places where you can go and run events, getting them on board. And a big part of that is just like recently I was organizing a draft, and just like they're not super keen on running those because they're like not sure they can make money on them or whatever. And that's a huge barrier to entry. And then of course, like in Magic, prizes can just be like more product. So that makes it super easy to just say, oh yeah, we know exactly how much this is going to cost and how much we can make off of the event.
And that sort of thing doesn't exactly work in the LCG format.
Exactly. So do you have any plans for that, of how to like move forward, making it easier or an easier sell or whatever for game stores to?
Yeah, we're really working on improving our communication with retailers because, as I mentioned, they're really the base of everything that we do in organized play. And as to more directly your question, whether or not a retailer wants to get involved, it's hard to be a retailer, especially a small local game store. Their margin for error is so fine. It's so fine that if they get too deep into one game or something, it could really hurt them. And so we completely understand that. And we want to make them feel comfortable in getting involved in organized play. And so that really helped. What helps us do that is when we know kind of a local group of players or something, and we can kind of facilitate them to, why don't you, well, this store's in your area, why don't you go talk to them.
That kind of goes back to the little ambassador.
Exactly, and so hopefully that judge program will help with that. But there's also the whole system and how we're doing our kits and our special events. We're constantly working on trying to make that easier for retailers to get involved with that, so they can make sure they can get those things on time, keep their players engaged, and keep growing that community.
Awesome.
And it just goes to kind of growing their confidence in that
the community itself.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think another big part of that too is just the sheer amount of time it takes. For going to a game store owner and saying like, hey, we need the store for 8 hours, is just like a harder sell. So it seems like the pod idea seems pretty solid there. Are there any other ideas? Is that going to become official going forward, or is that just something we're trying out?
Well,
Or?
this is the first time we implemented it here, and we've been trying to think of a good convention format because people like to go to conventions not necessarily just to play one single game, but to be there at the convention. It's a bringing together of that whole community. It's kind of a artificial culture, like this little bubble in a city, wherever the convention may be, whether it's PAX or Gen Con, etc. And so we wanted to be able to kind of create an engaging and fun experience, but still allow people who didn't want to dedicate a full day or even 2 days the opportunity to still experience the convention. And so this is the trial run for that. Actually went pretty well yesterday. Netrunner seems to be going smooth so far today. And we're probably gonna, I'm not sure if we're going to make it an official format, but it's definitely going to be. It's on the table of options right now, and we're always, like I mentioned, we're building this program from the ground up, and so we're always trying to find new and better ways to run these events. We have so many different games, and they all run just a little bit differently.
Slightly,
I mean, a Game of Thrones, the card game, is so much different from Android Netrunner, which is so much different from X-Wing, and so
not just in like mechanics, but also the structure.
Yeah, exactly, and they take different times to play. There are different things to think about, like with Game of Thrones I mentioned, or Call of Cthulhu, or our newest game, Warhammer 40K Conquest. You're just playing one game, and in Android Netrunner and Star Wars, the card game, you're playing 2 games in that time, and so we have to make sure that we allow enough time for players to do that, that we have fair and responsible ways to say, well, you didn't finish your game, so this is how we're going to score this. And then with our miniature games, with X-Wing and coming up, Armada and Imperial Assault, whether or not we're going to be supporting those in OP or not. People are standing for miniature games most of the time, and so if you don't want to necessarily stand for 16 hours in a row, and so it's a constant struggle to kind of have all those considerations and be able to come up with solutions, and we keep working on it. And as I mentioned, it all comes to feedback back from the players. Because we're here for you guys. We're here for the players and the community and the tournament organizers and the judges, and we want to build that community and empower people to really be part of it. And we really welcome that feedback because that helps us make it better for you guys.
All right, so then I'm going to assume then that you would point us right to Fantasy Flight's website, where we can put in that feedback. Engage in the forums and stuff.
Anything involved with organized play, you can email us at organizedplay@fantasyflightgames.com. And we try and respond as often as we can, as detailed as we can with those questions. More general questions filtered through customer service, and you can do that on the website. We're always happy to engage and get that feedback as long as it's constructive. Don't just like, hate rage at the event, because we'll make fun of you.
Yeah, exactly. No, there are people who like post hate mail, and that's always kind of fun to read. All right, so then I only have one more question.
Sure.
Which is, how do you feel about competitive Netrunner in the sense that, like, how deep down that rabbit hole do you want to go?
Oh, man.
Because I know there are some, like, obviously you can play Magic competitively and be paid to do that. And in Seattle, we're trying to set up some money match sort of structures and stuff like that. But is that something you foresee for the future of Netrunner, of being able to play professionally?
I'm not sure if Fantasy Flight Games would ever officially sanction something like that. I wouldn't say it's something we're against, but it's not necessarily something that we want to set up and do. At this time, anyway. Who knows how it's going to be? Because games like Android Netrunner, there's definitely a competitive vibe going through the meta for that game, and there are a lot of players who would love to do a professional circuit and something like that. And so, like I said, we get those emails all the time, and we consider them and we talk about them, and they're always kind of bubbling under the surface. Like, what are we going to do with this? How are we going to address that? If like another organization would want to get something started like that and work with us to do it, I'd be hard pressed to say that we'd be against that, but I'm not sure exactly how we would support it. It's different than Magic or other collectible card games where it's hard to have just kind of a monetary fund to do something like that. But it's something we're always kind of thinking about.
Okay, cool.
Where to go from here.
Awesome.
ever onward and upward.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks for coming out and talking to
Yeah,
us.
awesome. I hope I answered your questions
Yeah,
well.
definitely.
Cool, man. Well, yeah, thanks for all your help.
Thank you. You
Yeah,
too.
cool.